Welcome to the Harmony Channel. Jason Whitlock, your host, joined in studio by TJ Moe and Kevin Donahue. I believe Shemeka Michelle's here via Zoom. We're going to talk about Big Balls. Big Balls is the guy that Elon Musk brought into Doge. The deal where we're going to take a look at waste in federal government, and he got removed, and now he's come back to Doge, and now he's in the center of a major story. Last night in DC, or in the past 24 or 48 hours in DC, he steps out of a building, sees a young woman, let's just keep it real, and this time he sees a young white woman, I believe, attacked by a group of black men. And Big Balls, wow, he's got him. He went and fought off those guys and saved that woman from attack. And that story has gone viral. He's a hero. He's representative of the time that we are living in, where there's a lot of discussion about violence towards white Americans from black men, black people. This story has just gone viral, and Donald Trump is talking about federalizing. And I believe, is this a Trump tweet I'm about to read? I want to make sure. I can't see the top of who the tweet is from. Could you scroll down a little bit? Oh, yeah, all right. Well, this is a Big Balls related tweet. And while I'm talking about this, let's get the Donald Trump tweet in prompter so I can mention that, because he's talking about federalizing DC. But while this is a different tweet, while the Doge employee who was brutally beaten in DC for defending a woman has been identified as none other than Big Balls. Big Balls is a hero. Kevin, I think it was yesterday or earlier, mentioned that, politicians, they hate to let a tragedy go unwasted. They try to take advantage of every tragedy. So I'm going to read to you here Donald Trump's, I think this is on Truth Social. Crime in DC is totally out of control. Local youths and gang members, some only 14, 15, 16 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens at the same time knowing they will be almost immediately released. They are not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. The law in DC must be changed to prosecute these minors, in quotation marks, as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. Washington, DC must be safe, clean, and beautiful for all Americans, and importantly for the world to see. If DC doesn't get its act together, and quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run this city how it should be run, and put criminals on notice that they're not going to get away with it anymore. Perhaps it should have been done a long time ago. Then this incredible young man and so many others would not have had to go through the horrors of violent crime. If this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize this city. Make America great again.
Can I add a couple details to the story for Big Balls? So this was at 3 a.m. on Sunday.
Thank you.
And this was his girlfriend. And they were trying to carjack them. Okay?
Oh, wow.
So there are two 15-year-olds in custody right now that beat them up. One's a boy and one's a girl. So that's the full picture of the story. He didn't just see some woman who was getting beat up by these people like I originally had thought. This was his girlfriend. They were trying to carjack them, and he stepped in. The woman got away. His girlfriend got away, but he's the one who took the beating.
There's two in custody, but there were more involved?
Far as I can tell, yes. So, originally, maybe Elon said 6 people, or somebody said there were several people, but there are 2 in custody. One of my surprises was just that one of them was a girl.
Not surprised by that, but can we, and guys, call up a picture. I know we're doing this on the fly, but if we can get a picture of Big Balls bloodied and beaten, that's pretty popular on social media, if we could call that up. Uh, yeah, but yeah, this this I want to start here. And there's bigger branches to this tree, but I'm going to start here. This image and this guy is going to end up being the George Floyd for white people. That he is going to be a rallying cry. It's clear cut who the hero is here. It's clear cut who the good guys and bad guys are here. This isn't controversial. This is a smoking gun. Trump, I got to give him credit for, I think he's trying to get out ahead of this because, I'm anti-federalizing DC, I think, but I get what Trump is doing. He's trying to convey to the American public, hey, we don't want more vigilante justice. We don't want more racial division. We need government to step up and do their job and quit making excuses for this kind of violence. It's similar to, and people got very upset, and people won't like me making this analogy, but I loved it when Trump told the Proud Boys to stand down and stand back or whatever he said.
Stand by.
Stand by. And yeah, I love that. I thought that was the appropriate thing to say. I know he took a lot of heat for it. But he's basically saying, like, hey, man, we're going to do our job. We don't need to go off script with vigilante justice. If the government, if we bring law and order back, this stuff will calm down. But anyway, we'll start there with my contention, and we'll start with you, TJ, that big balls is about to be a really big deal.
Can you break that down further for me before I answer? When you say he's
a rallying point, a hero, a line in the sand, that's what Black people, Black Lives Matter use George Floyd as, this is the example of how America treats Black people. I think white people are about to say, this is an example of how Black people treat white people.
I don't think so. I don't think I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, and you guys talked on, I think it was Harmony, maybe with Shemeka and Donahue about the
Cincinnati.
Yes, and everybody's just done. Nobody believes anything anymore, and that is I think what's going to stop the next George Floyd from happening. Nobody has any idea what's real. Like, what are the actual details? We always wait to see. Now, this seems very clear cut and whatever, but just, nobody knows anything. And I'm one of these people. I don't believe a word anybody says about anything. Whatever the news, Fox News got it, not interested. Don't know what you're saying. And so I don't know that a rallying cry is coming from anybody. You'll have the movement, like, we've seen Nick Fuentes has a movement of a bunch of, disgruntled white people that feel like they're being treated unfair, and they'll use that, but they're using stuff anyway. So it's an addition to their movement. George Floyd was different, and I also don't think, I think it's very easy, people don't love to hear this, but just look, 90% of Black people vote the same way. 90% of Black people, I think, feel like they're victims. 90% of Black people, it's very easy to get Black people running in the same direction. It is not easy to get white people running the same direction. 50% run the other way the second they hear that the other 50% is going this way. So this rallying cry, like you're going to get all these white people, I don't see it.
Let me clarify further. A good pushback. I think that, take the redistricting deal and prevention to stop gerrymandering and thinking that, hey, man, we got to have, if 30% of Louisiana is Black, 30% of their representation in government needs to be Black. And so let's draw up districts that kind of help that happen. I think that's done. I think that's over with. I think pandering to Black people and thinking that, oh, because you have Black skin, you have something of value to offer, I think that's over. Now, is that over for all white people? No. But I think people like TJ Moe, I think people like Kevin Donahue, and I think people like Jason Whitlock are like, I don't care about your skin color. I only care about your values. I'm not doing anything to pander to your skin color. Now, I'll pander to your values, but your skin color, I don't give an F about. I think that's what I'm saying about big balls. It's like, if you needed any more resolve to go into work and say, oh, I know HR has installed this DEI boss of mine, and I got to pretend like this DEI boss actually earned this job and blah, blah, blah. There's just going to be a different attitude and a different vibe and a different willingness to object in subtle ways and in bold ways to the pandering to skin color. That is over in America for any of us with a brain.
Now, I love that, and I think that's true, and I hope that's true. That feels different than the George Floyd thing, and so I like where you're going with
Well,
this.
for black people, we're done pandering to the police. Defund the police, you know, the blah. And so it became a rallying cry to go into work and to tell white people you're racist and you better give us Juneteenth and you better give us this job. And on certain days, you better serve barbecue ribs from the right barbecue joint because that's black.
But that's the opposite. That's what I'm saying. It feels different because one's saying pander to me now, and the other one's saying we're done pandering. Nobody's pandering to anybody. So it is a different feeling. And I will tell you, this is a weird, transparent thing that people could be upset about if they want. I saw a video the other day, and it was just somebody at the top. The caption was just, "It's about time they fought back." And it was a compilation of white people fighting black people. And it was weirdly satisfying seeing white people fight back for the first time in like 5 years. It was just I don't even know who started. Maybe the white guys were the idiot aggressors in every one of them. I have no idea. But all I saw was, hey, there's a white dude willing to throw a punch instead of just get his face beat in. It's the first time I've seen that in 5 years.
I'm gonna give it, and Kevin, I'm gonna jump to you here, so power up. Carnival Cruise threw a punch. It's, hey, we're done playing this rap music. We're done pandering to black people on Carnival Cruises. And people have been upset about it. This is what I'm talking about. You see big balls, you see what happened in Cincinnati, you see what happens on these Carnival Cruises, and you just say, you know what? Call me racist, call me whatever, but this hip hop music is demonic. The people that love it are demonic, don't even realize it. They're prone to turn violent because this music speaks to their soul in a violent way. And you know what? I'm out of the pandering to Negroes on Carnival Cruises that want to hear curse-filled, profane, demonic music. We're done. And unfortunately, this is where we've had to go. Anyway, big balls, your reaction, Kevin.
Well, I'd like to kind of take it back down to the Washington, D.C. area. Right?
Please,
I'm
go
from
ahead.
there. I grew up in Northern Virginia, lived in Arlington, just over the bridge. And this is a common occurrence. And this has gotten really bad just in the past 5 years or so. I think it's probably since the George Floyd incident, there's been a lot of carjackings. I mean, young 13, 14, 15-year-old kids carjacking people. As far as Trump federalizing the city, that won't help. DC is the most law enforcement intensive city in the world. It has the Metro Police, it has Pentagon Police, Capitol Park Police, U.S. Secret Service, Uniform Division. There's cops everywhere in DC. What's that going to do? Do you want a cop on every corner? Do you want to send in the National Guard to stop this crime streak? I mean, what are you going to do?
You're going to lock people up.
You can lock people up, but you still have to be able to defend yourself. You know, what I would say for big balls, he needs to get some big balls and practice his Second Amendment and carry a gun. I know DC, it has some of the strictest gun laws in the world or in the country. However, you can get a concealed carry permit. So I would imagine he's going to do that, and I would recommend everyone go do that. Why not? We have a Second Amendment right. It's a right to be able to protect ourselves.
Love your point. But he's not going to be in Florida. He's going to be in D.C.
More of a reason to carry.
No.
But when you from the government building where you can't carry it from work, that's another tough thing.
But also, George Zimmerman, he's down in Florida. Trayvon Martin's beating the crap out of him, and they try to prosecute George Zimmerman down in Florida. George Zimmerman survives. In D.C., when you're going to face an all-black, left-wing Democrat voting jury, it's a bit more high risk. When you pull that gun and defend yourself, and this is where you have to evacuate these cities that are controlled by, and maybe, and again, this is probably an impossibility, but we got to move some of these government buildings and departments out of DC.
Absolutely.
So that the Doge employees aren't working behind enemy lines.
And they have done that. There's a lot of government buildings in Virginia and Maryland. I mean, so they've done that. Prince George's County, Prince William County. So they have done that.
Suburbs of
Kansas City.
DC.
Yeah,
They
what
got
are
to
you
get to
doing?
Kansas City. They got to get to Missouri. They got to get to Tennessee. They got to get to Texas. They got
Put
to
them
get
up
to
in Wyoming,
Florida.
all right?
So
Idaho. I want them in Idaho.
when I grew up in D.C., it was the murder capital of the nation. Mayor Barry was smoking crack with prostitutes, and we all remember that, right? So, and it got better for a while, but it's kind of back to its true form. I mean, I'd hate to look at the crime statistics in D.C., but what we saw, it just happened to be big balls. My question for Donald Trump is, what's he going to do if it wasn't big balls? This happens every day in D.C. It happens
Well, he's
all the time.
saying that. He is saying that. He didn't mention big balls till later in his.
This was just an excuse. You've been following this, Kevin. He already said, hey, I'm going to federalize, unless you get these homeless encampments out, I will federalize, get it cleaned up. And then he showed pictures the following weekend of everything cleaned up. So he's been pushing to try to federalize now for several months.
I have experience working with the D.C. government, and I've never met a more incompetent organization in my life. I mean, truly. I mean, I won't tell a specific story, but it was pretty bad. It took a long time to get things done, and I actually handed the deal off to another company because I didn't want to deal with it anymore because it was so difficult. It is a mess. But what is the federal government going to do? I mean, do you have faith in the federal government? We somehow think they're going to be like knights in shining armors coming in with their federal badges and save the day. I don't think that's true.
Well, and that's my argument. Rather than federalizing, move. One of the main reasons I don't like or trust Fox News is because Rupert Murdoch's got as much money as virtually anybody. If he were really serious, he would move Fox News out of New York City. That compromises. Your wife now lives in New York City. Your husband your kids now live in New York City. They have to deal with people when they go out to dinner. The wait staff, the restaurant, the people there may hate them because they work for Fox News, and so they're more careful. I'm only going to go so far. Where if they were living in Florida, and Fox News could pick, it'd be expensive, but to me it would be worth it. But they're not really serious. They're in on it. They're controlled opposition. There's a reason why The Blaze, we're here in Nashville, we're here in Dallas, where I can go out to dinner here, and there are people that are happy to see me and are just like, hey, man, that guy's got a pair of balls, and he has my values. Let's serve him a good meal. Oh, we'll get him. But if I were in New York, people would be spitting in my food and giving me bad service and harassing me, and I would be thinking, well, I better not say that because I'm here in New York City and I want to be.
The other thing I'll say, too, about you mentioned earlier, never let a good crisis go to waste, and this is what Trump is the best at. Trump loves having an enemy or someone he can attack and go after. And, you know, the true meaning of that never let a crisis go to waste is, one, it gets eyeballs on you for votes, and then two, it gets you budget money. You know, so suddenly, what's he going to do? Is he going to enact some sort of law and get tons of budget money and get people paid? I mean, it's an interesting dilemma.
All right, Shemica, thanks for waiting patiently. Jump in here wherever you want.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not with them federalizing anything because I don't think the government, I don't trust them. When it comes to Edward, because I'm uncomfortable calling some man I don't know big balls, I do think that this is an opportunity.
Well, hold on for a second. That is very consistent of you. You have always said you're a fruit inspector, and so without proof, you're just not going there.
Yeah.
But go ahead,
Yeah.
Shemica.
I have no proof, and you know, statistically, I would think that's wrong. But anyway, you know, I do think that this is an opportunity for Trump, to never let a crisis go to waste. I do want to tell you, though, that this carnival thing, I think that's likened to people saying, if you've been married, living together 5 years, you're now married. That's not the truth. I want anybody planning a vacation to know there are still boots on the ground on a Carnival ship. They just aren't in the club. But on the Lido deck, it's still the same floating project party that you see online. But I will say the government needs to do something. I don't know what it is, or maybe we need to put more pressure on states and cities, because I'm seeing even around here, a lot of people, it's a revolving door. They go in jail and they come out, and these are criminals that are actually charged with real crimes. I'm not talking about petty criminals, but I'm talking about those who, like Edward, are assaulting people and harming them and destroying property. Something needs to be done. But right now, they're getting a slap on the wrist, and nobody's afraid at all, and they need to be.
The thing that frustrates me, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is there should be such universal and loud condemnation of what happened to Edward here, Big Balls, what happened in Cincinnati, and we can't get there. I think, and Shemica, you weren't on yesterday, part of the conversation we had about Vivek and the Robert guy, but I did. There seems to be this shred group of people that just can't muster the courage to call out what appears to be obvious. And maybe it's a psyop. Maybe it's not as pervasive, because we keep talking, Kevin saying that, and people are saying like, man, DC is really bad and blah, blah, blah. But I keep seeing tweets and information. Well, murder's down, crime is down. And then, but it doesn't feel like that. And so anyway, I don't understand why there can't be universal condemnation of a behavior pattern and a pattern of violence that everybody seems to be able to recognize with their own eyes. We just saw it 5 years ago when they created the impression that Derek Chauvin and police were killing random black men. There was universal condemnation of Derek Chauvin and all police. We went to the point of, hey, let's defund the police. We can't seem to get it in reverse, and that's frustrating me.
I think because when it comes to crime or behavior, Black people lack accountability. And I think it goes back to that skin worship, where worshiping the color of your skin just doesn't allow them to do that, because it's a lie. You can't look around any city right now full of young urban people and say, oh, crime is down or it's getting better. We can actually see with our own eyes the results of having mothers or single mothers raise these young boys. They are wreaking havoc on cities across America. So to act as if that's not the case, we're lacking accountability, and we believe this whole notion of what happens in the home stays in the home. But because of social media, we can see that our so-called Black communities are oozing blood. Pussing and oozing blood. And so for them to pretend like this isn't happening, it's just a lack of accountability. When I saw what Robert was saying in Vivek's event, it just came across very silly to me. Here in my city, our mayor came under fire for referring to young Black men as YNs. It made national news across social media. And I was thinking, well, this is what they call themselves, number one. And number two, this is what we are seeing. We are seeing an influx or a rise of young Black men getting into crime, whether it's robbing, shooting, killing. They are just unruly right now. So why are we upset that he referred to them exactly the way they refer to themselves and exactly according to the behavior that they're displaying? Because we like to lie and don't want to be honest. And if we aren't honest, we aren't going to be able to have any solutions or solve the problems. So then it goes to your question about the whole George Floyd thing. I think white people may need some sort of George Floyd moment in order to put their foot down and to actually stop pretending like, well, we can't say anything because we're going to be accused of being racist, or something needs to take place. And so we can all come together, white people and sane blacks, to say, we're not going to let you YNs or even ONs continue to destroy our cities.
Kevin, I want to circle back to you as it relates to DC and your contention that, hey, things have circled back and they've regressed. And someone today will come out with some stat and say, well, actually, crime is down. Yeah. And what I would say, my speculation is that in the aftermath of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Trayvon Martin and the demonization of police, that what is actually down is the reporting of crime. That people have been so convinced that the police are your enemy, don't involve the police, that the actual reporting of what's happening to people is actually down and creating the impression that crime is down.
There's that aspect of it, but I actually have a degree in criminal justice with a focus in law enforcement, and we study probability and statistics. You know the fastest way to lower the crime rate? Stop arresting people. That's the fastest way to lower the crime rate. So if you're a new mayor or a new chief of police, you're like, fewer arrests. Suddenly, the crime rate goes down, and whatever policies you have in place are working. That's the easiest ways to change and manipulate the crime statistics. And so to understand that, it's like, okay, what are we putting on the books? We're pulling more people over, but we're letting them off without any charges. That's part of manipulating the statistics.
Kevin, did you watch The Wire?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about season 3 or 4 of The Wire, where they basically legalized drugs.
Right.
So that way they wouldn't have to arrest people if you legalize it and you confine them to a certain area, and it looked like, oh, this is successful. Crime is down. Yes. Because we're allowing crime. And so...
Yeah, you criminalize people by putting more laws in the book. You decriminalize people when you take laws off the book. The other thing I'd like to mention, too, if anyone grew up in the 80s, early 90s, you'll remember New York City was a mess. And they had this group called the Guardian Angels.
Yes.
These guys? Yeah, and they would ride the subways and they would protect people. And there's that famous case, goes way back, I think mid-early 80s, was Bernie Goetz.
Yes.
Remember, he got robbed in the subway, almost the same situation as Big Balls. And Goetz actually had Big Balls, pulled out a gun and shot the guys. Remember this?
Yeah.
It was a big deal. But the Guardian Angels, it was a response to the lack of availability of law enforcement when it mattered most, and that's in a violent situation.
I think there's people listening, wondering, don't the people in DC, particularly the people who live in, work in government and would have to live there, have a reasonable right to expect that their government will provide the protection out on the streets that they're paying taxes for? And DC is not like Missouri or Tennessee. There's no state, and so to federalize, it would be different, and I am aware there's the Home Rule Act that was allowed them to be able to govern themselves, and you have to go through some different things. But if you're Trump or you're just a reasonable person out there saying, okay, this isn't a state, so you're not violating any states' rights, and they're saying you're not, like, there's a dereliction of duty for the local government and the police officers, whoever, who just refuse to protect the people, and does the federal government have an obligation to step in and say, okay, then we'll do it?
Probably.
Well, and the DCs too, you have to understand, Georgetown and Northwest, they are heavily patrolled. These are the rich neighborhoods. And there's barely any crime in those areas. It's when you get to Southeast, going out to Prince George's County, You go to Northeast, it gets very, very dangerous. So when you're in DC, you know the quarter to be in. Like, you know where to be, at what time to be, and where not to be. However, a lot of it's starting to leak into some of these federal buildings. I'm assuming this guy was leaving either an apartment or his job, right? I don't even know what was happening at the time.
I don't know what happening, but these,
And I'm sure he lives in a nice area, right? But so it is starting to kind of spill over in different areas. So but the nice neighborhoods are very safe. Georgetown, there's no metro stop in Georgetown. That's on purpose. They don't want vagrants or random people to be able to get off the train for, pay $2 to get on the train and get off in a nice neighborhood and rob people.
Well, my concern would be, is this a violation of, what I wouldn't want is for, the pendulum to swing back, we elect a crazy person who then takes over Montana. But that's a violation of states' rights. That's a totally different thing than Washington, D.C. And again, there was an act that was passed, and so you'd have to get through some of that. But when you're just saying D.C.'s a disaster, you can't even get people to want to join the government because it's such a disaster there. I would rather, I'm a potential politician in my future in the next 20 years. Never in a million years would I go to Washington, D.C. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you live in Fairfax County. That's where you'd live.
But I'm not,
or Montgomery County, Maryland. Those are the nice neighborhoods.
I don't want anything to do with it, is what I'm saying. I think the vast majority of people just don't want anything to do with it. And so it's like, does the federal government, because what's the worst thing that can happen if Trump sets this precedent? They come back and say, okay, well, that only applied for DC, so the most I can do is not enforce the patrol. So I don't know what the downside is here. So, and you, Kevin, you know way, way, way more than I do as it relates to all this stuff.
It's no different than what they did with the Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security was put together after 9/11. It's the largest government agency in the world. And, are the TSA highly qualified law enforcement personnel?
No.
I mean, right?
No.
I think we all know, like, we got a joke there. And so so the federal government takes over. You're going to take a bunch of TSA agents or federal air marshals and put them in place there? Are they going to help? What are they going to do? So it is a difficult, problem to solve. Yeah. It's why DC has a mayor. It's why DC has its own Metro Police Department. And they should be able to at least, I think the problem is they need to put these people in jail for long periods of time. I think that's the key. But, what do I know?
Where this ends up going, it's like they're creating, they're creating a situation where the people will reach out and desire a authoritarian leader. And I think of El Salvador and Bukele. Did I get that name right?
Yep.
And he's having a lot of success in El Salvador. And he's had to take some really extreme measures to clean up El Salvador. And he's an authoritarian. And it's like they're putting Trump in the position to, like, if he wants to solve any of this, he's going to have to be more authoritarian. He's going to have, it's like they're creating a fascist. And there are people, and I want to be careful here because I'm a tiny bit out over my skis, but I've watched enough documentaries to know that, like, there's an argument that Hitler was created, that he was put in a position to turn into what he turned into. And that's where I think Trump is on a slippery slope and thin ice, is that this is all intentional. This whole, hey, let's let lawlessness reign. Let's put prosecutors in place that won't do their job. Let's create all of this chaos so that the only solution is an authoritarian government. And that's what
That's the recipe.
Yes.
I mean, radical Islamic terrorism, we've been at war for 25 years now. And that's what the government does. There's a boogeyman. I mean, you're right on point with the boogeyman. Now, I have to say, I spent a lot of time in El Salvador, and it's a great country. I've been going before Bukele and after, and he's done a really good job. It's a tourist destination now, which before it wasn't. So, but yeah, the boogeyman is always the key to run a good propaganda campaign and for the government to gain control. So I think you're on the right path.
But didn't they just this week move the terms to 6 years and then say you can have indefinite terms in El Salvador?
They did, yeah, I saw that.
Okay, so that is the definition of authoritarian.
Right.
I will just be the reigning prince forever.
Have you not heard, and again, he hasn't quieted it, but there's like talk of Trump running for a third term.
Well, Trump, yeah, and I think that's very unlikely.
I get it, but how do you even have the conversation?
Trump likes to mess with the left. That's the all he does all day long is pick at the left, and because
I got it, but to me, there's certain lines you shouldn't, or you just shouldn't cross. There's certain trolls I wouldn't. They're not worth it.
Here's what I would tell you about the difference between the United States and literally everywhere else, including, and I think I don't think you're over your skis as it relates to Hitler. I think Hitler was manufactured by the culture and the time.
Yes.
So I think that's indisputable if you study the history there. We have so many safeguards in the United States, and so many. Look, the federal judges have been running the United States this whole year. Trump can't hardly get anything done. The Supreme Court finally had to rule that, hey, you can't have national injunctions, and they already found a way around that by saying, okay, we'll just make it a class action then. And so there is safeguard after safeguard.
Is that a safeguard, which you just referenced, though? That seems like safeguarding chaos, allowing federal or
it's a
allowing
safeguard
judges.
against authoritarianism. That's what I'm saying. Now, you can argue that some of that, and that there should be good lines, and that even the Supreme Court could limit different things, but it's like, if Trump wanted to be an authoritarian today and decided, that's it, I'm going all in, he still couldn't get anything done. There's nothing he could do with the amount of safeguards we have in, with states' rights, governors with the class action suits, with the amount of federal judges. They won't even look. Right now, he's in a dogfight with the Democrats in Congress to just get his people appointed. Normal people that you would have already appointed, they just won't do it. And his own people are working against him. Tooney won't allow recess appointments. He's the first president, I think, since before Reagan to not get a single recess appointment. And they're coming in every 3 days to do the gavel so that he can't get it. So it's like, who's allowing him to be authoritarian here? He can't even get his own appointments in that are supposed to be legal.
All right, we're going to put a pin in this conversation. That was fascinating, but I do want to end on a more humorous note. I want Shemica's take on this. You guys can chime in if you want to, but Nancy Mace, the suburban Jasmine Crockett of lawmakers, released a picture of herself. Is she shooting a gun or what?
Yeah.
I guess it's her version of the American Eagle / I'm pro-gun / hey, look at me. Did Nancy Mace, Shemica, did she look at this picture before she posted it? Does she know what she's posting? Your thoughts here.
Well, Jason, I will say that I don't know if you all want to comment on a woman's appearance. I would hate for you to be called lame and have, everybody coming at you. I think Nancy did look at herself in the mirror, as we do most time as women, and I think that she lied to herself. I was very shocked when I saw this picture, Jason, because I'm not used to a woman putting on jeans and looking like a wisdom tooth. Usually that's men over 40 when they put on skinny jeans. But I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe she should have put a little bit more cleavage in the picture to kind of distract us from the pancake bottom. I don't know what was going on here, but she's delusional because she doesn't have good JEANS or GENES at all in this picture.
Yeah, perhaps she's seeking an endorsement from some BBL company or doctor or, perhaps she could be in a before and after picture here. Anyway, I just wanted to end on a lighter note. We did it. Kevin, TJ, you got anything to add here? Or you just want to leave this alone?
No comment.
I would just say usually you don't post the before until you already have the after.
I want to know what Big Ball's opinion is on this.
Not sure Nancy could handle big balls. I'm done here. I'm really done here. We'll play Harmony. We'll see you next time.
stop so divided. Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for